Hello and welcome to Job Club. Today we will be talking about financial literacy and workers' rights. I'm so glad that you're here with me, so let's go ahead and get started. So first we will speak about financial literacy. So here is a pay stub, just so that everybody is aware of what that typically looks like here in the US. You'll have your actual paycheck down at the bottom, and other things will be listed at the top here. So you'll have your number of exemptions and the amount of taxes withheld. Then you'll have any federal, state, and local taxes paid. So that will always be shown, how much is taken out of your paycheck. Then you'll have some pre-tax deductions such as a retirement savings plan and healthcare that will be listed as well. So these are the kinds of things you can expect to have listed in your paycheck, your pay stub. So banking in the United States, what do I need to bring in order to open a bank account? So you'll need, personal information such as your full name, your home address, your birthday, and your phone number. You'll need your social security number and your passport number, one of the two, a driver's license or state ID, and then money to make your first deposit in your bank account. Let's talk about different types of bank accounts. We have a checking account and a savings account. So a checking account is designed for money that will be used for daily activities such as grocery shopping, paying bills, and direct deposit. You can withdraw or take out money as many times as you want from a checking account, and no interest is gained. With a savings account, the money you deposit in here should be saved over time, for saving to buy a house or a car, for example. Sometimes there is a limit to the amount of times you can withdraw money per month from a savings account. So that is something to keep in mind. And more interest is earned than a checking account, but the amount varies by bank. The average amount of interest that you would earn from a savings account is 0.06 annual percentage yield. Talk about overdraft. This is a very important concept that I think is really worth going over. So an overdraft can occur when the amount of money withdrawn from the account is more than the balance of the account and can also be called insufficient funds. This can happen with any of your accounts, not just your checking account. And many banks do charge overdraft fees. So this is something to be aware of and to be careful of. This can be considered a term for short lending. Instead of charging interest, a bank will charge an overdraft fee. So basically, if you try to take out more money than you actually have in your account, that is when an overdraft occurs. So how to avoid overdraft fees, you could sign up for an overdraft line of credit. You could set up alerts with your bank. You could link a savings account to your checking account, or you could in general, a good practice is to keep track of your balance so you know how much is in there before you're withdrawing money. Some popular banks in the United States are Bank of America, Wells Fargo, PNC, and Citibank. None of these are necessarily, someone that you have to go with. They're just examples of banks that are common. I would particularly choose one that's close to my home out of convenience. After choosing a bank, make sure to download their app so you can view your transactions and balance and be able to check how much money is in your accounts. One thing to know is that when you're using an ATM and you're taking money from your bank account, a machine that you can use to take money from your bank account, if you use an ATM that is different from the bank that you bank with, that you will be charged a fee. Usually that fee is around $2. So that's something to be aware of if you're using an ATM that is with a different bank. So here are the logos that you might, want to get familiar with. We have PNC, Citibank, Bank of America, and Wells Fargo. So let's talk about debit cards. What is a debit card? It is a small plastic card used to buy items in stores or online. You can also use debit cards to withdraw money from an ATM. To do this, you need to create a personal identification number, which you should keep private. I would say, because this is the key to using your debit card, you should, never say it out loud or share it with anybody. And if you're typing it in on a keypad, it's a good idea to cover that up so that no one else can get that number, and it will be safe from other people being able to see. This is what a debit card would look like. You'll have your bank brand, your microchip, card number, expiration date, cardholder name, and the logo of the bank. Have a magnetic strip on the back with a hologram, an area for your signature, and then a security code, which you will likely use for online purposes, purchases. And then your bank's contact information will be at the bottom. So in case something goes wrong with your card and you need to contact your bank, you'll be able to do that very easily. And then the network logo down here as well. And let's talk about credit cards now. What is a credit card? A credit card is a small plastic card used to buy items using money from a financial institution that a customer agrees to pay for at a later date. So you are borrowing money and then paying it back. And there's a cost to using the institution's money called an interest fee. Credit cards can be used in person at a store or online and usually require a signature. You will receive a statement at the end of your cycle with the purchases you made and have to make payments for. If you pay the full amount when payments are due, you won't be charged interest. If you don't pay in full, you can be charged an interest rate as high as 29%. So this is where you would, should be very careful, because if you don't pay back the money on time, that's where people get into trouble and often end up going into debt. So I think a good rule of thumb is just to make sure that if you are using a credit card, make sure that you're able to pay back the money that you're spending on it. So here's an example of a credit card, very similar to a debit card. You still have the card number, the cardholder's name, expiration date, spot for signature, security code, and credit card company number. And then this is what the actual, statement would look like at the end of, the period. So you'll get, a list of the purchases that you've made, any fees and interest that's charged. That will all be on this statement. So tips for building credit. To build credit in the United States, opening up a credit card can help with that. I would not recommend having more than 3 credit cards at a time. I think a good number to have is around 1 or 2, so that it doesn't get too confusing and you don't risk going into too much debt. When you apply for a regular credit card, make sure it has cash rewards and does not charge annual interest or have a high interest rate. Those are the 2 things you want to look for. So make sure that it does not charge annual interest or have a high interest rate. Those are 2 important things there. And cash rewards, those are basically, something that a credit card company would advertise to you and say, oh, this month, if you spend money on your credit card at a restaurant, you'll get this % cash back. Or if this month you spend money at a grocery store, you'll get this % cash back. So that's what a cash reward is. And it's really nice when credit cards offer that kind of benefit. Do not spend money on your credit card that you know you will not be able to pay back. That is a great rule to follow. So good credit habits. Number 1, I would say, pay credit bills on time. Number 2, pay your whole balance so that, you don't risk being late. And then number 3, maintain a low utilization. These are all great credit habits to follow. Credit score tips. What is a credit score? This is a number that evaluates a consumer's credit worthiness and reflects credit history. So the score can range from 300 to 850. The higher the score, the more trustworthy a person is considered. Always pay your credit card on time and do not make late payments. That will hurt your credit score. So sometimes you can check your credit score through a credit card company, a bank, or a loan company. You can also use a credit score service or free credit scoring site. Those are always available. For example, I can check mine through my credit card company and a company called FICO. Checking your credit reports yourself doesn't hurt your credit score, but when a lender checks your scores, like if you're applying for a new credit card or a loan, this can make your credit score drop a few points. So that's something to keep in mind. So let's talk about mobile banking. Most banks have an app that you can download to your phone. You can check your balances, transfer money between accounts, and deposit checks. To register for your account, you may have to register at your bank or in person, or create a login and username password on your bank's website first. This will vary depending on the bank. If you're interested, you could just call your bank and they'd be able to help you sort that out. Number two, you'll have to download the app. Some banks may have you create a mobile banking PIN, and this should be different from your debit card PIN for security purposes, because again, that is the key. Your debit card PIN is the key to your debit card. This PIN would be the key to your mobile banking account. So you should keep them separate and keep them private. If you are using the bank app, you can deposit a check into your account. To do this, you will have to go to the app, click on mobile deposit, and it will tell you to take a picture of the front and back of your signed check. So it's just a faster and easier way to check your bank accounts. So here's an example of what mobile banking might look like. You can see all of your different accounts and how much money is in them. This is what it might look like if you're depositing a check on your mobile banking account. You'll just take a picture of the front and back and make sure you sign the back of it. Direct deposit. Your employer can sign you up to get paid by direct deposit, meaning the money goes right into your bank account instead of getting a check and depositing it yourself. It's very, very convenient. What you would need in order to do this is your account number and your routing number. I'll show you how to get those. You can also find them online if you're registered for online banking, and you can call your bank to ask for them if needed. You'll need the type of account, checking or savings, the bank name, and then the name of the account holder. So I highly recommend this feature. I think it's very convenient and most people do use it. So you don't have to, directly deposit, or so you don't have to deposit your paycheck on your own each time. So these are places where you can find the routing number and account number. If you have online banking, you can find them there, routing number and account number. You can also, and there's a routing number and account number for both your checking account and your savings account. So make sure that you choose the correct routing number and account number for the account that you are actually, hoping to set up with direct deposit. There are two separate ones for checking and savings. And then you can also find them on, and if you have checks made out for yourself, so there's a routing number and account number on the bottom of your checks as well. So some banking tips. Find a bank close to home. Banks can issue debit cards and personal checks linked to your account. Ask about fees before opening an account. Try to find one that is free and will not have monthly costs. And then banks can help you make deposits, meaning you can put money into your bank account. You can either do this in person or online. Let's talk about workers' rights. As an employee in the United States, it's very important that you know your rights as a worker. So minimum wage and overtime. So we have the federal standard, the Fair Labor Standards Act, and then we have the state legislation as well. So the Fair Labor Standards Act says that minimum wage over all of the United States must be at least $7.25. For overtime, the federal law says that employers are required to pay employees an overtime rate of 1.5 times their regular rate for all hours worked in a work week in excess of 40, unless the employee is otherwise exempt from the Fair Labor Standards Act overtime requirements. So that's federal regulation. And then Pennsylvania has agreed to stay with that. They have not decided to raise their minimum wage or raise the overtime regulation. So minimum wage in Pennsylvania is $7.25 an hour, and overtime is the same. An employer has to pay overtime to employees unless otherwise exempt at the rate of 1.5 times the employee's regular rate of pay for all hours worked in excess of 40 hours in a work week. So basically, if for minimum wage, states must at least have their minimum wage at $7.25 because that's the federal law. They can, however, choose to raise it. So some states, there is a push in Pennsylvania to raise the minimum wage, but as you can see, it has stayed at $7.25. But for example, the minimum wage in New York City is $15 per hour. And I believe in New Jersey, it's $12 with the plan to increase to $15 per hour by 2025. So these are just some different examples of how this can vary depending on the state that you're in. Vacation time. Federal law does not require employers to offer vacation time to their employees. In Pennsylvania, employers are also not required to provide employees with vacation benefits, paid or unpaid. An employer must pay employees for accrued paid vacation time upon separation from employment if its policy or contract requires this. So if you have been adding up and saving up vacation time over the period of time you've been working at a company and you choose to leave that company, it is likely that you will be paid for that vacation time that you've saved up and haven't used, is what that means. Then we have sick leave. Federal law does not require sick leave. The Family and Medical Leave Act provides up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave for some medical situations involving the employee or a member of the employee's immediate family or the birth and care of the employee's child. So I'll go over the 12 weeks of unpaid leave again here in a second, but that is basically for sick leave. Federal law does not require sick leave. Although for these specific situations, the 12 weeks of unpaid leave is available. We'll go into more detail about that in a second. And in Pennsylvania, the same rules and regulations apply as stated by the Family and Medical Leave Act. So maternity and medical leave. Federal law says employers who employ 50 or more people give qualified employees up to 12 weeks unpaid leave for birth and care of the employee's child, adoptive child or foster child, care of an immediate family member, or care of employee's medical condition. But one thing to know here is that employees must have worked at least 1,250 hours during the last 12 months before the Family Medical Leave Act can begin. Now in Pennsylvania, all public and private employers with more than 50 employees within 75 miles are required to offer the Family Medical Leave Act to qualified employees. Now, employees qualify in Pennsylvania if they have been employed for at least a year in a minimum of 1,250 hours. And for paid leave, they must be a permanent employee and have worked at least 4 months in the present financial month, and the company must be registered under the Family Medical Leave Act to receive paid 12 weeks of leave. So that's the difference there. For holiday leave, federal law requires federal government employers to allow their employees to take paid or unpaid time off during the holidays. So that's for federal government employers. In Pennsylvania, The law does not require private employers to provide paid or unpaid holiday leave. A private employer can require employees to work on holidays and does not have to pay more unless the time worked qualifies the employee for overtime. Meal and break time. So for federal law, no required lunch or coffee breaks are offered, or they're at least not required. Short breaks that last between 5 to 20 minutes are compensated and included in your work week hours. In Pennsylvania, employers have to provide a 30-minute break period to employees ages 14 to 17 who work more than 5 consecutive hours. Employers are not required to provide breaks to employees 18 and over in Pennsylvania. And if an employer provides a break that is less than 20 minutes, it must be paid. I want to go over some important legislation that was passed so that you are aware of your rights as an employee in the United States. So in 1963, the Equal Pay Act was passed. This established that it is unfair to pay women and men different wages for the same job. 1991, the Civil Rights Act was passed, which said that employers cannot discriminate against employees based on sex, race, color, national origin, or religion. And in the US, federal law protects you from being mistreated by an employer or coworker. So this is very important to know. Title VII of the Civil Rights Act is sexual harassment. This means unwelcome sexual advances, requests for sexual favors, or other verbal or physical conduct. The behavior does not have to be of a sexual nature and can include offensive remarks about a person's sex. If you are a victim of a similar situation, it is important to remember to document everything. For example, your experience with the harasser, the time, location, details, and witnesses. There are 2 general types of sexual harassment. There's quid pro quo, when an employment decision, promotion, or assignment is based on submission. There's also a hostile work environment, which occurs when an individual's behavior makes the work environment intimidating, hostile, and unreasonably interferes with the employee's work performance. If you feel like you have been a victim of workforce harassment, you can file a claim with the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. In 1978, the Pregnancy Discrimination Act was passed, which means employers cannot refuse to hire a pregnant person or fire an employee who becomes pregnant. There's also the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, passed in 1967, which says employers cannot mention age or say a certain age is preferred. They cannot ask for date of birth or graduation on an application. They cannot force you to retire at a certain age. And employers can ask if the applicant is 16 or 18, over 16 or 18. And then it also protects applicants and employees from discrimination based on age. There is also the Americans with Disabilities Act, which ensures that people with disabilities have the same rights as everybody else. Employers must provide reasonable accommodations to qualified job applicants or employees. There is also the Occupational Safety and Health Act of 1970, which reduces the likelihood of workers being killed or seriously harmed at work. Employers must provide a workplace that is free of harmful things with precautionary rules and regulations in place if necessary. So these are the specific requirements that are under the Occupational Safety and Health Administration. So the employers must provide a workplace that is free from serious recognized hazards and comply with standards, rules, and regulations in place. They must make sure employees have and use safe tools and equipment and properly maintain this equipment. They must use color codes, posters, labels, or signs to warn employees of potential hazards. They must establish or update operating procedures and communicate them so that employees follow safety and health requirements. Employers must provide safety training in language and vocabulary that workers can understand. And they must provide medical examinations and training when required. They must keep a record of work-related injuries and illnesses as well, with the exception if an employer has 10 or fewer employees and employers in certain low-hazard industries, they are exempt from this requirement. Now, there is a list of questions that your employer cannot ask, and so I think this is very important to be aware of. So you're not allowed, or the employer is not allowed to ask what year you were born, if you're married or have children, what your citizenship status is, if you have any disabilities, what religion you practice, and if you have ever been arrested. So if you are ever asked these questions by an employer, you are more than welcome to politely decline providing an answer. Thank you so much for joining me for Job Club. I'm so glad you were able to be here. I'll talk to you next time.